back to Tabletop Assault on this battle breakdown. I'm David.
I'm Ross.
And today we're going to be analysing a battle report between Craftworlds and Necrons, 2,000 points. You should have hopefully seen the linked battle already. If not, it's in the description down below. So we'd ask you to stop watching this if you haven't seen the battle report. Check that out first because spoilers.
Yep, so we're going to speak about that one in quite a lot of detail and probably focus on the Craftworld side. Now, major spoiler, the Craftworld did win. Now, they are the newest codex that is out at the moment, and we really want to talk about the sort of aspects of each of the units and rules that worked quite well.
Yeah.
Stratagems that may have worked, in further parts of the game if it had gone on, and what we were quite impressed by. So I think the area best to start with would be probably with the Ulthwe trait itself.
Yep.
Now, you did go Ulthwe and Autarch, but you mainly took Autarch to go the special character...
Illic Knightspear.
Illic Knightspear.
Just to open up the avenue for him.
And we'll speak probably of that in the units, we'll speak about them as well. But we'll start with the Ulthwe because that was probably a big decider in a lot of the areas of how you worked. We'll speak about that, then we'll probably speak about the dice you get to roll as well. So what did you think in terms of Ulthwe? A lot of people noticed that it has kind of 4 traits in it. Some of them being quite situational and some of them being quite good.
Already, compared to other Craftworlds, it has more traits than the others.
Sure.
Others have 2, some have 3, these guys have 4. Straight off the bat, if you are psychic heavy, which I tend to be with Craftworlds,
Yep.
It's the one to go because you get +1 to your first psychic test, which I think is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Secondly, invul save of 6-up is nice. It's not great, it's not game changing, but it's nice to have.
Yep.
And then ignoring mortal wounds on a 5-up, I think is underrated. It doesn't sound like it's going to impact the game that much, and ours didn't actually impact too much, but it could potentially going forward.
Yeah, mortal wounds are a thing.
Yep, so defense against that's always nice.
Yep.
But we come on to the main trait.
Yes,
The main one, which is every time you make an attack, either in the fight phase or shooting phase, I believe it's only those 2 phases. No, just when
you
make
an attack, but you don't often make an attack in the other phases.
Yeah. You will get to reroll 1 failed wound.
So yeah, the two big ones were obviously the wound one. I think that is very important. I stressed in 8th edition, if you're going to try and push for stratagems, anything to give you rerolls or betters, the wound one is important because it's harder to get augmentations on wounds than it is on hits. And this is a great one. There's plenty of ways to augment your hit rolls when you're Aeldari, whether it be through stratagems, whether it be through characters. But when it comes to wounds, this just gives you a straight up, here's a reroll. And it works very well in multiple small units, which you had some of, not completely, but more or less you did have it work very, very well. Guardians, it was fine. Guardians, it's okay. But having Dark Reapers, this one works very, very well.
Very well with Dark Reapers.
Very well. Rangers, I'd say, works well. Again, you're putting out a low amount of shots, but you are getting that all-important reroll, which is very, very nice. And overall, I think that was a huge contributor to Ulthwe. If you're playing larger squads and don't have multiple small units, this isn't going to pay off as much. But overall, I thought it was very, very good.
Quickly just touch on the Warlord trait as well. I actually quite rate this from the game, which is you get to retain an extra strand dice.
Aye, that's very good. Is that a Warlord trait?
Yeah, it's your Warlord trait. So it's your Fate Reader, which I put on Eldrad.
Yep.
So average game that people play, you're probably going to retain 4 of your 6 strands. Retaining a 5th, brilliant.
Yep.
Because I think how many times I was doing rerolls throughout this game with the strands alone.
So that is Eldrad Ulthwe's Warlord trait, yeah.
Eldrad Ulthwe's, or you can give it to an Ulthwan character.
But that makes sense. So it allows him to know 1 additional psychic power.
No.
No?
It just gets him to retain a dice.
Sorry.
Eldrad already owns 3 powers.
Relic.
But the relic we'll come on to now, the Ghost Helm of Alish Azir. I highly rate this. Now this, only 1 of its attributes got impacted in this game because you're not psychic.
I'm just going to quickly say on the Fate Reader one, say that having that extra dice is essentially a free reroll per battle round.
Yep.
That is worth a lot, and I don't think you can manipulate them in any way. You can re-roll them.
Yeah, you can re-roll. For every Farseer, and I had 2 in that game, you get to re-roll a strand result. So 2 re-rolls, basically.
That's 2 re-rolls and you get 5 dice because of the amount of points you played. That's really good in terms of re-rolls itself. We'll speak about rule, but having an additional 1 as a Warlord trait, that's essentially 5, if you're playing battle rounds, of re-rolls in a game that you don't know exactly what they're going to be, but you can manipulate it. That's really good. And in terms of other Warlord traits, you don't have such consistent rerolls as that.
No, you don't.
That is very good. But the relic, I think you gave the...
So I gave the relic to the Farseer. So the Farseer had normally Doom and Guide, which is your staple for Farseers and always going to remain that way through 9th.
Sure. But
the relic, the Ghost Helm of Alishazir, will give him an additional power. In this case, I went with the Crushing Orb, which is the one I was using to try and whittle down the wounds of the Catan.
Yep.
But the real part which you want to have fun with, the additional power is only from Runes of Fortune, I should say, and that's again with the Crushed Orbs table. It's like your additional spells.
Yeah.
But if your opponent was a Psyker army themselves and had the capability to deny, the relic also will stop the your opponent from denying an unmodified test results of 9+.
So that's not going to affect this battle so much.
But it could going forward, is what I'm saying, yeah.
It could. It's a very good relic. Very, very good one. Having an additional psychic power is fine, but having an ability that allows you to, now it's unmodified rolls of 9, to be irresistible, well, basically they can't be
stopped.
denied, is very nice. That's a very nice relic. And then finally, if you look at the stratagem for Ulthwe, which focuses on the Guardians, is that what does it do is...
choose a Guardian, they get +1 to their hit rolls.
Which is fine. I think that is that in the shooting or fight phase, whichever one
it's just whenever they attack.
It's cheap if you get them in place with at least 10 in the squad. Can you go 20-man squad?
You can, yeah.
I mean, that could be a lot of shots.
2 shots a piece, strength 4, -1, 1 damage.
That's not bad. It's cheap for 1 command point. It's not one... It's dependent on what you're firing at. If you really need to cause them, it's not bad.
Of course.
But the thing I noticed in Ulthwe, Dave, is that you used every single aspect.
Yes.
Now, you don't often see that.
No.
Where you're going to use, obviously you're going to use the trait, because everyone, if you use that trait, you're going to use it. You use the Warlord trait, you use the relic, and you use the stratagem. I can't remember the last time in any game I've used, or any force I've used, where I've used all of them.
Yeah.
I can't. So... This is not to say it's overpowered. There's some people go, oh, that's too much. I think they're all fair, all usable to the degree which they are good.
And that will probably, I've said this a few times throughout the battle report off camera, this is really well balanced, as in this is really well written.
Yes.
This feels all Craftworldy, everything has its use, everything has its purpose, and it feels right.
Yeah, the thing to say, it may have 4 traits on that, but 5 up, ignore mortal wounds is nice. It's not 4 up. If it's 4 up, that'd be a bit much. 5 is not bad. You know, that's okay. It's situational. Not everyone throws out mortal wounds. The 6 up invul save doesn't work well with many elements of the Aeldari force, but with things like Guardians, it does work well. So when people look at 4 traits, they're going to go, "Oh yeah, 4 traits. That's broken. Why again so many?" The 6 up invul. There is a lot of invuls. It's not really going to affect your Farseers or HQ. It's not going to affect your Aspect Warriors. Nope. It's there for your Guardians. And you don't really mind them so much. So it's a nice thing to have, but don't look at it as 4 traits of unbelievable power. There's 2 of them there that I think are situational. One is a Psychic Defense, and one is a Guardian Defense. I don't rate them very high, but nice to have. But the Wounds part and the Farseer part, or at least the Psychic part, really good.
Agree.
And I think you utilised them very well in that battle report. Very well.
Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
What would you like to
Strands
talk
of
about
Fate.
next?
I'd like to speak a wee bit on that one as well.
So, Strands of Fate.
And how your army compilation worked quite well with them.
Right, so we'll come to this. We're just moving through the rulebook, guys.
Sure.
Here we go. Strands of Fate. Beautiful. Do you want me to explain it?
Yeah, explain it for people who haven't seen it.
Quick rundown.
I mean, hopefully you have seen it because we've played the battle report, but maybe a bit more explanation.
Quick rundown. Roll 6 dice at the start of every battle round and consult the chart. The chart can be things like reroll and advance roll, charge roll, psychic test, hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw. Saving throw will include invul saves.
Yep.
Which is big to know. Depending on your army size will determine how many of these dice you get to retain and use throughout the battle round. For, again, your average game is going to be 4 dice. So you're retaining 4 of these and they'll come into hand later on.
Yeah, so I think if it's 1,000 points or less, it's going to be 2. I think between 1,000 and 1,999, you're probably looking at 3.
No, it's not. Strike Force is up to 2,000.
Yeah, so saying 1,000, you get 3 between 1,000 and 1,999 once you hit 2,000, which
no,
Strike
it's not.
Force?
Up to 2,000 Strike Force.
Oh, is
Anything
it?
above 2,000 is Onslaught.
Oh, is it? So is like the 3-1 probably 1,000 to 1,500?
Probably.
And
I need to go and double check, but
Oh, check
Strike
it.
Force is up to 2,000 point games.
Ah, right. So it's probably 1,500 to 2,000, and then 2,000 above is Onslaught is 5. So the bigger are the more dice you get, which works really well.
Yeah.
In terms of the rules that you get, which is between Advanced, Charge, Psychic, Hit, Wound, and Saving. Now, the important difference is when I speak about a lot of these rules, I say you have to make conscious decisions before the match begins, and I don't like it. That is things like Necrons and Custodes.
Yeah.
Necrons, you need to decide the order of your protocols, and I often don't like that because the engagement of ways things go, you may not, the reward of that ability may not pay off, and it's also aura to your character, so you may not have the right area of the battlefield. So it's incredibly situational. I really don't like the command protocols for Necrons.
Fair point.
They would be good if the rewards were very good, but I don't think the rewards are that good. And the same sort of goes to Custodes. Again, you decide before the battle, but the reward is okay. This is that the dice are decided during the battle, which is a big difference. You decide them at the start of that battle round. And you know each battle round how the game is performing.
Yeah.
And that allows you, and then you can further manipulate it with Farseers. You know, you can re-roll them if you don't like it. So you're not deciding, you are deciding before the battle rounds, but not before the game. They are instrumental because they are re-rolls, but you get, if you were told you have to decide these dice before the battle round, before the game, this would not be a good mechanic.
No, it wouldn't.
If you said, cool, I get, each battle round I get, you know, you make the dice and you go, I get 1 charge roll, 1 psychic. Not very good. But because it changes at each battle round, you get the same amount, but it changes. It's not you decide before the battle. That makes a really good rule. And I really, really like it. Also, I know there's one of them that doesn't change there is morale. Because let's face it, they know that they're still struggling with morale.
Yeah, that's not available.
Imagine that was one, everyone would be like, just reroll morale.
I had a ton of fun using the Strands in that battle report. They all had their place. And you're right, tactically, I was really able to, as the game's evolving, utilise them to their full reward.
Yep.
I wasn't probably losing. I think there was only one strand I didn't use. In fact, no, I think I used them all. I used every strand.
I don't
all
know
the
if you used the advanced roll. Oh no, every
because
turn. Yeah, no, in terms of actually utilising them all, I think you did.
I don't mean I've used all of these, but what I mean is the ones that I rolled for and I decided to retain, I used them all.
Yep, and the fact that you had Farseers able to manipulate it meant that you didn't feel any of them were maybe lost, and even if you did roll above it. I think it's one of the highest ones I rate. Interestingly, and this is going to maybe petty as a Drukhari player, is that Drukhari and Eldari had battle, what's their one where they can advance and stuff?
Battle Focus, you still have it.
Battle Focus and, what's the one, Pain Through Pleasure or whatever it is. Power Through Pain. Power Through Pain works out to be Strands of Fate. Eldari feels like they've got this, their Battle Focus and another one where Drukhari felt like they just kept one. Maybe I'm being petty, you could argue maybe Combat Drunks might be the equivalent, but that only affects Cult. I may be being petty in that one. But my point of the matter is, you see a lot of these now in the codexes where if you go a mono faction, in terms of it's just a Surian for this, so you could actually go Harlequins
you can.
in there. You can't go Drukhari. I don't think Drukhari has a Surian keywords.
It's not that, you also have to have the Strands of Fate keyword, Ross.
Oh, do you? So definitely you can't have them.
So no, Harlequins cannot use it.
Oh, really? So this is really a Craftworlds
Yeah, so
rule.
see if you look, for example, here, Strands of Fate.
Yeah, okay.
So as much as it's got a Suriani, it is Craftworldy.
It's Craftworld, so this doesn't affect Harlequins. So Harlequins didn't get anything like that, did they? Have you not even checked? I've not even checked. That's not about this one.
Yeah, it wasn't this battle.
What I compare it to is the various other aspects of it. I think this is one of the best ones I've seen so far in terms of mono faction bonuses. Really, really good, and I think you utilised it exceptionally.
It definitely impacted the battle.
And it felt fair.
Yeah, it impacted the battle. That word fair, I think we were constantly saying that off camera about that as we're playing it through, it felt right, felt balanced.
I liked it. I thought it was really good.
We'll move on to next, Ross.
Let's speak about sort of key units, and probably the one I want to look at is, we'll start with Eldrad Ulthran.
We'll go for my choice first.
What's your choice?
Obviously Eldrad Ulthran.
Right, we'll go with that. I mean, it's the one we just turned on to there.
Yeah.
The other one I want to speak about is Warp Spiders.
We need to talk about the Autarch.
we need to speak about the Autarch, very, very important stuff on that one as well. So let's start with Eldrad Ulthran.
I'm not going to review, it's not a review video, so I'm not going to go through the whole details, but a couple of the key things I want to point out. See Eldrad's ability to cast. We didn't get to showcase his denying ability, but see his casting ability, second to none.
Yeah.
Magnus, yes, probably still better.
But he's about 3 times the points.
I was going to say that.
How many points is he?
145.
145. Even 3 times the point is 350 points. Magnus, I think, is he 400s?
He's in the 400 odds,
so
and maybe 450 odds.
Yeah, so he's not 4 times the price.
Yeah.
But he's not far off it.
So you're automatically getting your +1 to your first test because you're Ulthwe.
150, no, it's 3 times the price.
But you re-roll every failed test, which I think people don't understand how important that can be.
That is so good.
I didn't get to use it that much.
There's a lot of re-rolls in Craftworlds as it is, but every failed test.
So you re-roll every failed test. Now again, I'm going to mention some of these things we never got to utilise, but it's probably worth just highlighting. Another couple of ones that's really good for you to know about is the armour of the last runes.
Yep.
So his armour gives him a 4-up invul, which you expect from being a Farseer, but he will ignore unmodified wounds of 1, 2s and 3s.
Which fine, he is toughness 4, which I don't understand.
I know. I
don't know where that came from. Someone's going to explain it lore-wise why is it tougher than an average one.
So
whatever. Yeah, fine.
Brilliant.
Ignoring 1, 2s and 3s.
Him, along with other Farseers, can never peril.
All Farseers can never peril.
Because all Farseers have called a Ghost Helm. Ghost Helm's rule is you don't peril. You can't peril. You can still fail to manifest.
Yeah.
But you will never peril. So basically, Craftworlds, unless you're doing a Warlock, you'll never experience a peril.
That is exceptional. In terms of combat ability,
you can do this.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say in this one. Just going to his war gear. He's got 3 attacks, 2s to hit. He'll be strength 5, -2, 2 damage, and he always wounds on 2s. So he's not going to do too much in combat compared to Gazgul Thraka. But that's not his job. But the point is, always wounding on 2s with a -2 and a 2 damage, that will hit on 2s. That's going to hit out a few Primaris
and
in
he's
combat.
got his wind reroll as well because he's Ulthwe.
And he gets custody. Yeah. That is going to reliably take out at least 1 or 2 Primaris for a unit that should not be in combat.
I think players fighting against Eldrad will think just going to take him in combat. You might be surprised.
Yeah, he's got a 4-up invul, he ignores the 1, 2s and 3s, so he's got survivability, he's got the psychic, he's got armor utility, and in combat, he'll do fighting. He's gonna annoy people. Yeah, I think for point cost, very, very nice unit.
Last point on Eldrad, I used him today in this battle report as a utility psyker. He didn't take anything offensive, he was all around giving people ignore wounds, giving the ultimate psychic power buff, which is focus will as well.
Yep.
So you're primarily using him to buff your other more important elements or keep things alive. He's actually really, really good.
Well, I mean, that's the point of Farseers, and Psychic in general. Generally, Psychic is not used offensively too much. Some people do, but I feel a lot of people find the utility, especially in the Craftworld Psychics, which I don't think we'll go into too much in the individual Psychic. I want to speak about the units. But the point of a Farseer is to buff other units. You've got Guide, you've got Doom, great abilities, and being able to get them off reliably with Eldrad, and have armor ability. I mean, solid unit. How many points are Farseer compared to Eldrad?
So a Farseer is about 100. I'd like to say, I'm still used to this codex. Let's say 125 on Skyrunner.
Oh, on Skyrunner, yeah. The mobility is probably his only weakness.
So I took mine with Singspear, 125. Nailed it.
125, nicely done. How much is the Farseer in foot? 90 points. So you're paying essentially 30 points for Farseer's
You
mobility.
need that though.
You need it, and that's probably Eldred's only weakness as he is walking about. But he has a 7-inch movement. Trust me, that makes a big difference.
With battle focus.
With battle focus, though, if you do that, you can't do psychic abilities because you can't advance in psychic. I think
there's a stratagem.
There probably
no, there is a stratagem which allows you to do an action and still be able to cast. But I think you can only cast 1 psychic power though.
Advancing and doing an action is 2 different things. Yeah, there's probably one that might allow them to
you're
advance.
totally right, yeah, totally right. Yeah,
it might be one that if you do a psychic action and do your psychic abilities, which makes more sense. But generally, Eldrad Ulthran,
brilliant.
I think you used them once in 8th edition.
I don't think I did use them in 8th edition.
You may have not used them because the Ulthwe trait was garbage.
It was garbage.
Now it's quite good, and Eldrad Ulthran is very, very good, so I'm very impressed.
Moving on.
Yep.
What do you want to discuss next?
Let's go on to a negative note, but not a bad one. Let's go into Dark Reapers.
Good.
which has changed quite a bit.
You can take this one.
So yeah, okay, I'll do this one. Start Reapers have changed. A lot of people say to nerf on this one. I think we'll see some changes in terms of points, but the main things that people went with was the fact that they could ignore modifiers was very, very good. Now, they don't ignore the heavy rule, I believe, so if you move them, they're going to be minus into hit.
If you move, they're always going to be minus the hit, unless you purchase, I believe it's like 15 or 25 points Exarch power, which allows you to move and ignore heavy.
Which I think is fine. I've not looked at any of the other weapons here, and I'm not really going to look at them because you work to the Eldari missile burst. Yeah, I can see that the problem is that now that they're only 5-man squads, that in terms of buffing them up heavily, which is what you essentially did, and then you've faded them away to try and hide them, is not as possible. So taking 2 5-man squads you did this time, probably not as viable, but the main thing is if you have an Autarch nearby, you are still getting that reroll ones. Malkin Ra, I don't believe he buffs.
He doesn't buff them anymore, it gives them morale.
Yeah, which, who cares? Like, come on. I think that they still do well in terms of their Eldari missile launchers. Missile launchers are good, but are they as good as they used to be?
Well, I prefer the Reaper launchers, which is what I use today.
Is the Reaper launcher?
So the Reaper launcher will give you, it's less damage than an Eldari missile launcher, but you're guaranteed 3, which I really like.
Yeah,
and
like,
you can
sometimes guaranteed is pretty good.
And you can switch it to heavy 2 for less strength, but it's still minus 2
that
damage.
Is good.
So you've
Could
now
they
got
do that before?
No, so they've now got a second profile, which is actually pretty good against Primaris.
Yeah, because everything's got to have as much as Chaos Space Marine players like, oh, we need an extra wound. Trust me, guys, an extra wound. There's too much damage to stuff in this game.
So I quite like the Reaper launcher change.
That's really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I never got a chance to use it. Didn't need to use it today.
Didn't need to use it.
But they still have their abilities. They're still okay, and they're still quite expensive. But yeah, changing the can't ignore all modifiers means you now need to pay to ignore the heavy one. And they do ignore dense cover. But
oh really? Yeah,
they do ignore dense cover. But your opponent with abilities can still minus them to hit.
So I'd say that I don't want to say Dark Reapers before were must takes. I don't know Craftworlds enough, but I know that they were good takes. How they are now is I think there is still potential beside them, but I think their points might need to be, what are they now, 30 points model?
Points have to be, they're 150 points for 5.
For 5.
Yeah, 100 like 30
so that's model. 30 points model with 1 wound makes them exceptionally risky. 30 points. I can see them going down to about 25, and just because they're 1 wound models, maybe that might be it. They've got heavy weapons, so 25 points maybe feels a little bit more in the area.
People may say their 5-up invul is a big game changer. It's really not, because if you're shooting against Dark Reapers with 1 wound, you're probably only shooting AP -2 and AP -1 anyway.
If you want to see me rant, I did this video a few weeks back about invul saves and damage mitigation. I really don't rate when things have a decent armor save and then have an invul that's over -2 AP. Like, invuls to me should be things without armor.
Yeah.
If the only way that actually plays in effect is if you're hit by a -3 AP weapon, which in this game there's so much AP -1 and AP -2.
So will we move on to another unit?
We'll move on to another unit.
If you want to run the set, I'm instantly going to take the one I hope you weren't going to talk about, because this had a big impact on the game. I think you know where I'm going with this.
All right, let's speak about the Crimson Hunter.
So the Crimson Hunter Exarch is instantly gone up in my estimations. It's probably one of my favourite flyers, if not my favourite flyer, in 40k.
I really don't like flyers very much, but keep in mind the only real flyer I sort of own is a Helldrake, which is...
We all know. And this thing would destroy a Helldrake.
This thing would destroy a Helldrake.
So the way I used it in this battle, and it did have an impact, was I gave him an Exarch power, and on that Exarch power, I gave him Kane's Eye of Kane. The Eye of Kane will allow him to auto-hit anything that's a fly keyword.
Yes, yeah, which, crazy. I don't like mechanics when you basically ignore other mechanics utterly. So I had -1 to hit on the Tomb Blades. Doesn't matter, you hit automatically.
It doesn't matter.
I don't like it when there's no way for you to possibly fail. Sometimes it's okay where it's like you ignore damage of something, but to automatically hit, I just don't. I get it for flamers because there is like range thing you're paying for and it's random shots, so there is a bit of RNG in it. But you just remove any RNG going, just all hit.
Yep, and it played a massive part. Now it will automatically get plus on ballistic skills, so just for being an Exarch, which is still super
So
efficient to
you're
hit.
still already hitting on 2, so it's not the biggest thing in the world, but I'm a bit perturbed.
Yeah, so it's weaponry. I gave him the pulse laser and the 2-star cannon, so he was getting 6 shots in total. He had a very heavy cannon to do big damage, and a really efficient cannons to do 2 damage. And as soon as your Tomb Blades were there, that was the only thing you were minusing to hit in your army.
Yeah.
And it just had to hunt them down. Now that's what you expect from a Crimson Hunter. It's meant to hunt down targets.
Yeah.
And it hunted them down with terrifying efficiency.
Yeah.
It really began to start work on the Catan as well. Although the second round you just went, here's my 4 pinballs, not today. But to take out 6 Tomb Blades with the armor plus and the minus to hit, and reanimation, with essentially only 8 shots I shot at you, hit automatically, wounded really well. This thing is devastating.
So you've got, not everything in the game has fly abilities, but many many armies do now. I'm trying to think of armies that don't. The only one that really comes to mind is Astra Militarum. It does have Valkyries, sure, that does happen, but there's not many things in their force. But if you look at Space Marines now, a lot of their tanks fly. Not many of their troops fly, and I think we might see, if I was to guess what's going to come up with Space Marines in the future, and there's already talk of it, that they are going to get more units, and I think it's more going to be geared towards the unit, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, etc.
I agree.
But I think there might be a combat jump Primaris unit, looking at the Space Marine trailer for the game where Captain Titus,
Captain Titus
he launches himself, and people going, Primaris can't do that, they don't do combat.
Let us make a model to show you that it can.
Well, there we go. But the point of the matter is that Crimson Hunter, it's D3 plus 3 damage for a lot of its players, the Bright Lance or the other one. Against Space Marine tanks, that is going to be devastating. You also hit, so whatever shenanigans they can do from minuses to hit, who cares? It's one of its weapons is strength 9, the other one is strength 8, I believe.
So Bright Lance is strength 8, minus 4, D3 plus 3 damage.
Yeah.
Or I would always take the pulse laser, strength 9, minus 3, D3 plus 3.
No, you don't replace the pulse laser. You can take pulse laser and the Bright
sorry,
Lances.
but I would always take the pulse laser as my main cannon, sorry, is what I'm saying, but you have to.
You have to do that, David. You don't get a choice.
Yeah.
It's the Bright Lances or the Star
Lances.
Cannons. And the Star Cannons are good if you're going to take out some Primaris units. But I would argue, see if you're against anti-vehicle, not all vehicles fly, but more and more, and if you're against Custodes, that would eliminate a bike almost instantly.
Can I just also point this out? I never got to use this because auto hitting anyway.
Yeah.
But as a standard rule, I always get +1 to my hit rolls against flyers as standard.
So even if you had a -1 on your flyer, which you would get if you were like a supersonic vehicle, you'd get -1 to hit. You ignore it.
Ignore it. I actually forgot to factor in, I didn't really read this properly, I get to reroll all wounds against flyers too. Now I don't think it mattered. Yeah, I don't think it mattered.
Sorry,
Yeah, read it, it's real.
like it's fly, it's not even things that are like flyer
No.
unit choice.
I didn't actually factor it into the battle, but I don't think I needed to. So I don't think I actually failed to win any time.
Well, you might have, but we know for the future, that is insanely good.
And he's hard to hit as
How
well,
many
which you
points
thought. About 170 odd, I'd like to say. I think he's coming in about 170.
Yeah. Like a lot of things in Craftworlds, we might finish on that kind of note, is that they are very much a...
If you take no Bright Lances, take him as his stock, 170 points.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
It's something that, does an invul save? I don't think it does.
But you could, instead of giving it the Eye of Cain,
yeah,
you can, for 25 points I believe it is, give him a 5-up invul save instead.
I don't think I'd be bored with a 3-up save. It's fine. It is toughness 6, so some small arms fire stuff will do anything that's strength 7 or 8 is going to do as much damage as if it was toughness 7.
If you think about it though, theoretically,
less, but
have it in your back line, so if you don't get turn 1, you're likely to be shot as unlikely.
Yes,
you keep him in the back line anyway. Then so if you're turn 1, you unleash him straight away, or if you're turn 2, hide him. He is a Craftworld flyer. He can move up to 60 inches, and his guns are all at minimum 36 inches.
Yes, you're going to get range.
You're fine.
Yeah, you're fine.
Someone may have some long range fire against you, but he's actually a really well-rounded unit.
I think that is... I don't want to use the term auto take. If you know you're going to be facing flyers in your opponent's force, So if you're facing Tau, other Craftworlds, even Astromel, that's the one force you wouldn't use it. Adeptus Custodes, because they're going to bring bikes. Space Marines now, they usually have a flying
tank,
flying tank at some point. There is, as an anti-vehicle, but even as a harasser for their star cannons, is very reliable, and I think that is an unbelievably good unit. 170 points feels a little heavy considering it is only toughness 6, but it is a 3-up save, and you have to spend a few more points to bring it up to...
Yeah, so you're approaching like the 190, 200 point mark.
Which is a heavy investment.
It is light, but its damage output can be devastating.
Can be really good, and you can hide it well. Like
definitely.
Hide it in the corner and then bring it on. Yeah, Crimson Hunter, I think that one was a great unit. Do you want to speak about the Humble Guardian?
Yeah, so...
Or should we end on that one?
No, we'll end on the Guardian, but I just want to quickly caveat one wee thing. Yep. It wasn't a massive game changer, but I do want to just highlight in this breakdown. Autarchs have the reroll aura for all core units, which was fine.
Which they had before, except for Core War.
I actually used this a lot today as well. The Superlative Strategist. The Autarchs can let you use the command reroll twice per phase. Yeah. Which I think can come into play massively.
I think beforehand you said that there was the refund on 6s.
Use the refund command points spent, completely gone now. He will just allow you to do your command reroll twice a phase.
I think that's better. It's a rule that we haven't seen before, and I like it when sometimes you try and give a bit more of a unique feel to them.
Yeah.
I think that's better. The refund thing is fine. If it's 6s, you're roughly going to get 2 command points back. This is different, and I really like it. I think it's really, really good. I think we'll speak about Warp Spiders before Guardians, because Guardians is a very different way people think.
Well, do you want to take Warp Spiders then?
Yeah, so Warp Spiders was insane. I did say to you when you told me what they do, which is the range is now 12, so really good for deep striking. I think it was always kind of 12. Assault D6, Strength 6, minus 2 AP and 1 damage. Those stats alone are very, very good for anti-horde, but then you add in Blast.
I actually think I did minus 1 AP against you, Ross.
Oh, really?
Because I did the Jinx. But so I wouldn't have actually needed to do the Jinx then, now I think about it.
Did as well.
But it's fine.
It's 2 AP, so they're better than we did in that.
Wow.
The point is, a lot of times you see, when it comes to minus APs, I always say if you can achieve minus 1, minus 2, it's almost as better than paying the points for being minus 4, minus 5. Because then eventually invul saves may kick in.
Yeah, of course.
Or you just go way over people's armor save. Minus 1, minus 2, you almost, other than maybe demons and who have no armor save anyway, get your points back you pay for having that AP. Strength 6 means most things that this is probably going to be targeting as their damage 1 stuff, you're going to be wounding on 3s. And then the Blast ensures that you should, unless you're facing against multiple small unit stuff, is going to punish. If someone has an elite squad like Lich Guard, this is going to go essentially through their armor, which you did. You went to an invul save, so who cares about the invul save? Why did you need to be any better? Didn't you really matter. You're getting a high amount of shots because I did take them in a big blob, which I argue for Lich Guard and several units it is the way to go forward. Sometimes when it comes to stratagems, etc., I could have taken them in 2 5-man squads.
It's better as well for reanimation because you're a 2-win model.
Exactly.
So you need to get your multi-win models back, you have to expand the numbers just to get a few extra back.
So there's, in terms of the weaponry we've got there, how many points a model?
It is about 200 points for 10, so about 20 points a model.
20 points a model. They don't do well in combat, but they have the defensive ability of if you charge them, I think, do they just fall back 6 inches and then you still get to
So you can use their flicker jump, which is if you're chosen as a target, you can basically just go activate flicker jump.
As long as you're not already engaged with
Yes, of course. If you're getting charged, you'll go, I'm going to flicker jump actually. Now you can't get out of charge range.
Yeah.
But you might potentially actually get out of charge range.
Yeah, you can.
Potentially, but at least you know you're going to get a 6-inch gap between you at minimum. Yeah. So there's always a potential to fail the charge against them.
You can only do it once, but that is a really,
it's really good.
Really, really good.
You could just stop, you can't charge me now. Done.
I'm going to see if they're going to FAQ that, and I think there has other things that this is, where basically if something becomes out of charge range of a target due to ability like that, you are able to then re-choose your target because they essentially become a non-viable target. If it allows them to jump out of charge range, and then you go, right, cool, you cannot charge at all, That seems a little bit much for me, because it just completely, like, your opponent might be, oh, please don't. It means if you're over 7 inches away, you're never going to charge this unit.
Which adds to their defense, though.
Adds to their defense, but I feel, forcing an opponent to then lose their charge is a real pain. Maybe that's part of their defense, because they can only do it once in a phase.
Can you declare a new charge?
It's one of those sort of rare rule sort of idea where very few things can, it's almost like you're not affecting how far the dice rolls. It's literally the choice is removed from you. I don't like, again, you remove the choice options. It's a bit of a rough one. I think it's a great ability, and if your opponent can go, right, you flicker, I declare a charge on you, you go flicker away, right, I've lost that opportunity, you've got away, I can recharge. I think it's a great ability. If you lose your ability to charge because they flickered entirely, then they become a non-choice. I don't like that. But that is, another part of it. They've got 5 up invul. It's fine. I just think that for their points, they are, again, 3 up save. I think they're a really, really, really good unit.
The gun, the Death Spinner alone is just really good. The weapon profile on that is brilliant.
The weapon profile is fantastic.
It fits the load as well. You're going to always be jumping them in and deep striking them in.
You're going to always deep strike them. You're not going to foot slump.
Use the Exarch power, which I use, which is Surprise Assault. Which is like 15 points, I believe.
Yeah.
And it gives them all an additional attack with all their Death Spinners.
Yeah.
So if you're targeting a 10-man unit, you're minimum before you even roll, you're guaranteed 44 shots.
Yeah, against 10-man unit, if you're over that, so what's that, 70 plus shots?
It's a lot.
It's a crazy
very
amount.
efficient unit for what you pay.
And when you have these large volume dice rolls, you should always then utilise your rerolls for these large ones. That's why you got the Doom reroll, because when you get a Doom reroll and it's like 1 dice, you can still fail that 1 dice. Versus this one, you're going to get a lot of fails. You're going to get a lot more successes.
Yeah.
And with Guide, very, very good unit. I'm very intrigued. It's got 12 movements, so it's got mobility. It can't do anything in combat, but it's got defensive of being able to run away from combat.
Yeah, of course.
And its attack, really, really good. I think the Warp Spider was a solid unit.
In terms of the battle we played, that was probably nail in the coffin.
Lich Guard.
Your Lich Guard was your centrepiece, and it was the one thing that could maybe tank a bit longer. But as soon as the Warp Spiders came in, that was our target from the whole part of the game. Came in, eliminated their target. That was the cripple, that was the nail in the coffin.
Were they 0 AP beforehand? I think they were.
I believe they were, but I believe they had Shuriken.
I think they probably had Shuriken, but if you weren't -2 AP, that would have been a completely different story, because I'd be rocking the 2 up save.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And then I'd say these guys, but at -2 AP, I think there is an AP problem becoming in this game. Then there's becoming a little bit too much -1 and -2s everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's a different conversation. As a unit, how well it works,
brilliant.
Very, very good.
And again, quite well balanced, I think.
I think first points, if you shoot them, they're going to die.
Yeah, they'll die.
But they are really, really nice, really well done.
So the last unit I want to talk about, guys, maybe didn't play the biggest role in the battle, but it certainly impacted your choices of tactics, was the Guardian Defenders. Now,
Who cared about Guardians that much beforehand?
I think I may have used them in 8th edition once. I was always a Dire Avenger person instead.
You were always Dire Avengers for the way forward in that, and I think you could take Guardians in a 5-man squad. Now you can't. I think you have to be a 10.
No, they always had to be 10.
Beforehand as well?
Yeah, but your Dire Avengers are your 5-man option, but they're no longer troop. They've been switched to elite.
Yes, which is... that hurts them in some ways as well, but the Guardian Defenders... The rules for them are some of the rules we haven't seen before, and they've also improved some. So the main thing I think that they've thought about the rules and made them better utility is the Shuriken rule, which beforehand it was if you get a wound roll of 6, you become -3 AP. Now if you have abilities that make you -3 AP already, that's wasted special rule. They've changed that adds -2 to your AP.
Yeah, so it's all Shuriken now is -1 standard, and every wound roll of a 6 brings the AP -3.
But the point is it's not. It doesn't make it a -3 AP. It says it adds 2 to your AP. So if you had an ability, I don't know if there is any, that gave you -1 AP already. So you had one that already gave you -2 AP. It stacks, which it didn't do before.
Yep.
And I think that's a very important, slight difference. But it's rules like that they go, some people manage to up the AP anyway, and it felt like a bit of a wasted rule.
Yep.
Situationally, that's good. It's the same way as, again, I speak about Dracaribus and other places. The Raiders, they need an R2 slot so the HQs can go on.
Yep.
Cool, do it. And they've done a good job on that to realise that simple change just makes it a much tighter, better unit.
A couple of other changes. Again, this didn't really play a part in the game itself.
One thing I would say, I don't think they should have been -1 AP. I think they should have been AP 0, but that's something I'm going to die a hill.
I'll just disagree with you on that, because I think AP -1 is what they needed.
I think there's too much of it in the game.
That's right, but I think this particular unit fits it. It's shuriken, it's meant to be blades.
Yeah, you already get minus, nah.
No, we don't.
You get it on the 6s.
Yeah.
I disagree.
So, well, we can disagree, but we'll move on.
Disagree.
It didn't really play much into this game because everything you shot at them had higher AP, but they're now armor save 4+.
I agree with that, totally.
3+ for a weapons platform is fine, but 4+ sort of brings them into line with what you consider to be your staple core troops for armies, like Tal Fire Warriors, maybe not Space Marines, but Space Marines are the exception to the rule because they're Space Marines. But a lot of armies, your core troop choice, 4 seems to be a number you expect.
They are an ancient race of beings that each one of them that dies is an absolute cost.
Yeah, of course.
So they're not in the same armour as a disposable guardsman who are 5+ saves. The 4+, we saw with the Drukhari, they got their Cavalite Warriors up to 4. Made absolute sense that Guardian Defenders became 4 as well. It's simply the fact that it's better in terms of help for the game, but I think just in terms of Craftworlds and these ancient races, a 5+ save, I get what they're going for, but Guardsmen are the disposable 5+, and Orcs don't care.
And then lastly, we need to really touch on is the Defenders rule they now have, which
really like this.
Which we talked about about how you would probably play a Guardians themed force going forward. But really simple recap from the game. If they're on an objective, they get to reroll hits of 1, which is absolutely amazing. I think that's underrated.
I think it's underrated. Sometimes I say I don't like that you have access to reroll 1s through an Autarch, and then you have another one through this. That's overlapping rules. Doesn't work that well. But what I'd say is that the Autarch is really there for other units.
Yeah.
This reroll 1s, you really don't want Guardians to have an Autarch giving them the reroll 1s because that's an expensive point. But you really want them to be Defenders and or Guardians to get onto their points, and they get rewarded for doing so.
Yeah.
That is really, really good. That's a really good gameplay aspect I quite enjoy.
It makes you have much less resistance to hold them back. You're actually going to want to go, you know what, I'm actually going to battle focus these guys, get them into the middle of the field, take the middle ground. Yeah, I'm still susceptible to be shot at, but I now know I'm going to get rerolls, and I've got 2 shots from my catapult, and I'm extended range now to 18 inches. So if you can battle focus the mid-range, you're actually going to be dropping shots into your opponent's deployment zone very, very quickly, just in 1 turn. And there's some good stratagems there to do extra hits on unmodified hit rolls of a 6. If you're Ulthwe, you can stack another hit roll on there as well, so you're hitting on 2s, 6s are additional hits. There's lots of ways to buff Guardians for not that heavy a price, but they're so cheap at 90 points for 10, 180 points for 20. Bring 30, 60 warriors, and you're not putting a heavy points cost. You're still going to have special units behind them doing their thing, but that's a lot to deal with, and it will dish damage and probably get value back.
I think we're seeing, and I could be wrong, this again, I'm not a tournament player, in 2,000 point games, you saw this a lot with AdMech when it came around. I think people were playing, I think some of the competitive lists were like 80 either Rangers or Vanguards, and I expect Strike Force for Tau might be the case. They might be going Devilfish, take 10-man squad and go forward. But for their points and the fact they can rapid fire so well, you might see strike teams of going, cool, we'll take 60 of them because then we can go, right, cool, we'll move forward, you have to defeat them all and we can do a bit of damage. But where they might do damage, but they're going to be slow to get onto points with Tau, Guardians can actually do a little bit of damage, not as much I think, but they're so fast. You can get in the middle of the field without even thinking about it.
There's stratagems if they're bogged down, they can fall back and then unleash a volley as well.
Well, so imagine if you knew that one flank was going down, you could battle focus really far, say like you had shift over, and you could just throw, they're 2 shots a piece, saying you've got 50 Guardians, you eliminate, say you took 80, which you saw with Rangers and Vanguard. Now they can put out a lot of shots themselves, but imagine you can battle focus way over to one side, you still may have 50 left, that's still sorry, 25 of them.
It's a lot.
No, if you have 50 of them, say you killed a unit of 10, that's still 100 shots.
I know. Yeah.
So if something goes on an objective, you could just drown it in shots, and it'll really.
And now it's got the AP to back up its shots too.
Which I disagree with, but
I
that
don't.
is the rules. I really think there's an AP problem in this game. I think Invulns is not the solution to it. But in terms of Guardians, 9 points model, is the Storm Guardians
right.
the same?
I don't even care for them because they suck.
Well, it's this combat. If you're going to set on objectives, then I can see a purpose. Not a great one, but
Storm Guardians are 1 point less.
they're 8 points, and then they can take some special stuff on it. Fine. And then there is, if you want to take some of the stuff from... no, that's not the right one. Either way, I think there's going to be a very interesting discussion of... I don't know where it's going to go because I'm not a Craftworld player, in terms of... And neither is our particularly tournament players. I really want to see if people are going to field quite a lot of Guardians. I can see it for the sheer fact it's going to give you huge board control. So your opponent goes, turn one, I have to... You've got things in the backfield such as your Dark Reapers. You could have, I don't know, many other things you could have. But your opponent's going to go, great, I need to deal with these 60 Guardians.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Oh, if I don't deal with them, and they've got OBSEC, I imagine they get OBSEC. Then,
They do, yes.
Then you're on the field immediately, and they're going to be an absolute pain because there's so many of them. We've seen in other forces where that happens. Now, I know there's some ways to counter them, but this is just another force with such mobility.
If you really wanted to be cheeky, put Fortune on them. Ignore wounds on a 5-up. You would never use that unit, but if you wanted to be cheeky, 20 guys.
You're going to go 20 guys, that's a good option on that one as well.
It's another problem to deal with.
I know that in Amic forces, when you take like Vanguard, it's known to take them in 20-man squads, so you can auto-hit a lot, like auto-wound a lot of stuff. There is a good stratagem for that. But Guardians, they don't need a stratagem to be good, like maybe Amic might be. You can take them 10-man squad, push them forwards, it's 90 points, and your opponent probably has to deal with them, or you're going to score points. And that's how you win this game. It's not just damage, these guys will score because of board control.
You actually raised a quick point there about stratagems. I just want to touch on this. I actually didn't use that many stratagems as I normally would have. So prior to this, Craftworlds were using stratagems constantly because you needed the stratagems to make your army work. I used a few stratagems, but I actually didn't use that many, or different ones. The Strands, the rerolls was way more impactful.
You lost one of the stratagems you used more than any other one in your previous battle ones was the Farseer one that gives
you... It was Runes of Witnessing.
Runes of Witnessing.
Which gave all units within 6 inches reroll wounds of 1. We don't need it now.
I thought it was a good stratagem because it allowed you to reroll wounds, which is something like a lieutenant would do.
Yep.
And I appreciated that it was something different. If it wasn't working on hits, it was working on wounds. Very, very good. Would it be nice to have it? Sure, but the way they've focused this one and the way it's worked in this battle report, really, really good. Unit I wasn't that impressed with. Rangers, I thought were fine. They were just felt like snipers.
Rangers are fine. I was forced to take them because we only own 20 Guardians.
Yeah, are you minus 1 AP on them?
Yes, so I couldn't rate. I had to take them, guys, because I literally couldn't field a battalion without them.
Just check. Space Marine snipers aren't minus 1 AP. They're 0 AP, aren't they?
No, I believe they're minus 1.
I don't think they are.
Because all Primaris is like minus 1 is standard.
But they're not Primaris scouts.
Oh, the normal snipers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're minus 1.
Are they? Okay, right. I thought they were still 0.
No, they're minus 1.
Okay.
We'll check after.
Are you 100% convinced?
100%.
I'm convinced they're not, but I don't play Space Marines. It makes sense for snipers to actually be minus 1. I kind of get that.
Yeah, the Rangers were okay. Again, I was just forced to take them in necessity. I'd rather replace it with 10 more Guardians, if I'm being honest. But it is what it is. We could talk about all the units, but we're not going to.
No, in terms of that battle report, I felt that we saw a lot of significant stuff in that one.
Yeah.
Got one last question in there. If you were to sacrifice any stuff and you think that you could take a bully unit like the Avatar of Cain, would you have?
No. And I'm very quickly trying to find you the sniper rifle.
Oh really? Don't like.
I wouldn't. So the Avatar Cain, I would probably. I'm still not convinced of the Avatar Cain.
Convinced of it by the model, I really like
I'm convinced by the model, of course I am.
Yeah.
But I'm still not convinced. So I still treat it in the same way as a Catan or a Primarch. Mm-hmm. I'm still not convinced to make their points back at the moment. They did definitely at one point, where they were always like a take. The Catan today, I dealt with it quite easily, actually.
Well, when you have such a force that has psychic shooting and combat to the degree, you're going to deal with it.
There's other options in there. I actually prefer to put the points I put in for him, I'm probably better put them into wraiths.
Yes.
I think I'll get more utility out of D-scythes or wraith blades than I would out of the Avatar. I think the Avatar Kane's like 250 points.
270 points.
So
that seems fair to me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's fair. He's dearer than the race, but I just think I would get, from a 5-man race, depending on what I'm fighting, I could get a lot of potential with the guns, or I could get a lot of potential with the combat. I prefer to have that flexibility.
The Avatar of Kane, I feel, is a bully unit. Similar to the Catan. The Catan's bully unit because it's hard to bring down because of its special ability. The Avatar of Kane halves damage, has good invul, and generally a bit, it's not bad. It was just more of a curiosity if you could see it in your force. I honestly don't think I could.
I can't see it.
You'd have to sacrifice too many points.
Yeah,
What if you gave up 1 Dark Reaper unit for it? I'd give you a bit more board control.
I'd still have to give up Dan something else. Dark Reapers are 150 points for 5. I'd have to give up all the Dark Reapers.
It's
150 points for 5. I brought 10. I'd have to give up the 2 Dark Reaper squads to bring them, and I wouldn't do that.
No.
I think Dark Reapers have got way more potential.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They're still nerfed what they were, but they still achieve more in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Avatar of Kane, I'm honestly not convinced, because I think you get a lot more utility out of your Farseers and your Warlocks.
100%.
Far cheaper, you're going to get you're not going to do the damage, but Craftworlds is all about buffing your other units and letting them do the damage. We shouldn't be pumping everything to one guy. I'm just not, I don't rate it that much.
It's a case of when it comes to board control, you can do it with Guardians and flood the field with them, and I think that's a very viable one. You can try and charge up the field with an Avatar of Kane. 270 points, I just need to see how people field it. I don't think it works in your playstyle at all.
No.
And we'll see if people are convinced by it, but overall I think it's a fine unit for 270 points, but
yeah, it's fine unit.
I don't think it's in your playstyle.
No, definitely not. Guys, with that, we're going to wrap up this battle breakdown. We first of all hope you enjoyed the actual battle report itself, showcasing a lot of these new units we've just discussed.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed our little breakdown. Again, as Ross mentioned, we don't always do these, but we thought it was worthwhile in this battle we just played, because there were certainly a lot of good talking points. Again, I just want to reiterate, overall, I don't feel this is an unbalanced codex. I actually endorse what they've done with this codex. I think it's quite well balanced. It's fun to play.
People are going to say it's balanced. They say it with nearly every codex bar Thousand Suns maybe, and even then rubrics and scabs are really quite good for their points. I think it's a fine codex. There is options. I don't think it's completely unbalanced. There is some game breaking shenanigans stuff of like so many different rerolls and stuff, but I really like it, and I don't like Craftworlds at all. I think it's a solid codex. The themes, the way it plays, really works for Craftworlds, and I actually think it's one of the best ones they've run in a wee bit of time. Just because how it makes the force feels, I think it's quite good, and it feels fairly balanced. I'm sure someone will try and break it soon enough.
Yeah, everything gets broken over time.
Everyone works out something, and then someone works out how to beat it. We'll see with Tyranids next.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. Crusher Stampede's going to get built into the codex.
Oh, they have to do something.
Cannot wait.
They have to do something different. And how are you going to beat that? The Stampede worked really well.
Crusher Stampede's going to get nerfed, I think.
Yeah.
But
I'll just remove the 5-up inbuild from them, but keep the nice one damage.
No. I want both.
I know, both worked really well.
Both are so good. We'll see what happens. Anyway, we can go and talk about it.
Let's end it.
So guys, thank you very much for watching. Check out the links down below for all the social media updates, but more importantly, comment, share, like and subscribe. If you've watched this and hadn't watched the battle report, we did warn you at the start. If you've watched this and now we've talked about this and you want to go and find out how it went, go back and check it out. Alright? From us, we hope to see you in another Tabletop Assault battle report.